Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Brandy Lloyd with the Path for Health podcast. And before we get rolling, I just wanted to lay down a special offer for you guys. I really feel that this is a time for people to be generous and to be sharing our gifts and talents and experience and education as much as we possibly can right now. So as a nutritionist, I was thinking, how can I really do that? I do the free podcast. I do lots of work and education on social media and not even on my website. But what can I do right now to really help people that are struggling? And I was listening to the news the other day and listening to just how many people are having to go on unemployment and have completely lost their jobs, and that they are having all kinds of different stress. And I know that a majority of these people also have health issues that were things that they were dealing with before this crisis happened. So this is what I'm doing is for a short time. I don't know how short exactly. And based on my schedule, rather than my regular rates of $150 to $199 for an hour session, I've cut them down by 70% to bring on anybody that is really needing to work on some health issues right now. So just $30. It's a 30-minute consultation. You'll get some things to fill out ahead of time so that we can make the most of the 30 minutes, just some questionnaires and some backstory so that I can review your case so that we can jump on an online call and I can get your feet on a path and I can get you feeling better. Right now is actually a great time to work on your health because most people aren't doing anything else right now. The jokes with crafting and professionally Netflixing and cleaning out closets and whatever. We don't know how long we're going to be on this quarantine, shelter in place kind of schedule. So why not take an opportunity here, take advantage of the fact that the temptations that you would normally have when you're undergoing a diet and lifestyle program, you aren't faced with those anymore. It's not about going out to dinner right now and going to the barbecues and the weddings and all these social events. So this is an excellent opportunity for you to take advantage of. If you want to meet with me and schedule one of the few spaces that I have for the 30-minute consultations, it's going to be first come, first serve. So go to thepathforhealth.com and it's right there on the front and you can just fill it out and I'll be notified, and then you'll receive a series of emails from me follow with the next steps so that you can get all the paperwork or information that I need from you taken care of, and that we can get you right on the books, and I can show you how to take advantage of this time. Step by step, easy to follow. I've been there. I help people do it all the time, and you might as well take advantage of it. I would have never expected that I would be throwing out my rates like that right now for a quickie 30-minute, but why the heck not, right? This is something that I can do to help you, so take full advantage of this. All right, we're going to get on with the show. Hi, thank you for joining me today. This is Brandy Lloyd with the Path for Health podcast, and I come to you today in the middle, I'm hoping it is the middle of this COVID-19 shelter in place, quarantine kind of time. And even though I'm used to working from home, having my clients come to me in my private practice, I too am feeling the strain and the stress. I think it's mostly because of the social distancing and just the general fear that seems to be around. I've only left the house one time in the last few weeks, and that wasn't even to go to a store. And I just noticed how different it was outside. There just isn't any people anywhere, and seeing the businesses closed was definitely just kind of weird. I felt like I was in a movie or something driving around. But I also noticed that within myself was just this feeling of anxiety or fear, I guess you could call it, and just because of the unknown. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you today about is those feelings that I was having were coming from my mind. And the state of our minds or our mental health affects our healing, whether or not you are repairing your gut or whether or not you're wanting to reduce overall inflammation or you're looking to build longevity or lose weight or balance your hormones, whatever it is, those thoughts that you have is a massive influence on the success or even the availability for healing and moving forward. So I hope that you like what we cover today. I want to try and make it fairly conversational and relaxed. There's a whole lot of science behind this, and I want to keep it as friendly as I possibly can. So if you are interested in reducing your stress, if you feel like you have been suffering from maybe a plateau of sorts in your health in whatever area, then this is going to be a great podcast for you. Hi, welcome back. So let's get started in this really cool area of stress and mental health and your actual brain health and healing, and really taking a look at behavior change and metabolism. I know that's a mouthful, but it's pretty much what I do every day with all of my clients. So this is definitely familiar territory for me, both professionally and personally. So let's talk a little bit about your mind and your brain. So I'm a real big proponent of working with anybody who is open to body, mind, spirit, and soul, and kind of understanding how that all works together. If you're not familiar with the body, mind, spirit, soul approach, let me kind of break that down a little bit for you. So our minds aren't tangible. We can't see them, touch them, feel them, but somehow they exist. And our minds are basically where we store our thoughts and feelings. You can't show me your feeling, but you can share with me your feelings. You can't show me your thoughts, but you can share them with me and let me know what's going on. And on a relationship level, if you're not sharing your thoughts and your feelings with somebody, then they are using other social cues, facial expressions, or tone of voice, or maybe even your word choice. But really, those are all just the byproducts of your thoughts and your feelings. And your thoughts and your feelings have everything to do with healing. I'm going to talk about healing, but you can insert whatever you want as far as what your goal is. On a personal level, I want to heal, and I'm looking for longevity, and I'm also looking for resilience. I want to be tough. I want to be hard to kill, like with this COVID-19, I want to be one of the asymptomatic people that's running around with an immune system that's like, that's not much of a deal for me. This is like when she's exposed to, pine pollen or a horse or a grassy field. I got this, kind of a thing. So that's what I'm going to talk about is healing. You may be dealing with something else. Maybe it's hormone balance, or maybe it's weight loss, or maybe it's sleep, or just insert here when I mention healing today. So when clients come to me, they're coming to me hoping that I can help them because they have had certain thoughts about their health. Maybe they're, not happy with their body, or they went to the doctor and they got a warning card, right? Like a yellow card in soccer, and saying, hey, you're pre-diabetic, or even pre-diabetic, next time I see you, you better square this away. So they hope that I can help them. And they're hoping with their heart, and they're hoping with their mind. But our brains actually power us, and there's a lot of power in our mind. Like, what do you think about all the time? And science shows us that whatever we think about will actually grow. So if you have positive thoughts, then chances are you're going to have a more positive life. If you have negative thoughts, you're going to attract or create a negative life. And that's just that, we've talked about that for years and years, right? Are you a glass half empty, or are you a glass half full kind of person? So when people come to me, they have decided to pour their hope into my services. They believe that I have the education and the experience, both professionally and personally, to get them to a place where they want to be, or get them away from a place where they don't want to be in some cases. So It first starts with hope that happens in your head and your heart. And then what I do is I get on board with them and I dig around a little bit. And what do you really want? And why do you want that? The why is a really big thing. It's like, well, I want to lose 25 pounds. Why? Well, I just kind of want to fit in my jeans again. Why? Well, I just want to look better. Why? We can always go deeper. And until I start to get into the emotional side or the feeling side, I know that client is going to have a slimmer chance of being successful and reaching their goals. I've got to get to those layers of the emotional side of it and say, well, I feel like my husband doesn't like my body, or he doesn't want to touch me, or I don't feel confident, or whatever. Well, how does that make you feel? Well, it makes me feel sad. I worry about losing our relationship, or he's going to fall out of love with me. That's different. Now we're getting somewhere, right? So for me, it's about doing things and doing things with the people that I love. I want to go hiking. I want to go canoeing. I want to climb mountains. I want to enjoy riding around with the top of my Jeep off. I want to travel this world. And in order to do all of those things with people that I love, I need to have a resilient body that can actually handle that kind of stress, even a fun stress, right? Fun stress of traveling and hanging off ropes with my boys and stuff like that. So they come to me with hope. And then I dig and I help them figure out their why. And then the next step is that I help them incorporate certain behavior changes that are going to move them in the direction of their goals. We all have to have goals. And then I'm there to provide the consistency and the accountability and to make any course corrections and just give them that extra support. And of course, they're going to start to see changes. And they're going to start to see changes and feel improvements in their body. They're going to see improvements in their body. And that is actually going to reinforce the behavior changes that they've been hoping in and trusting in. And that new behavior and that hope switches from just hope and just this vague feeling, and it becomes like light that they can see at the end of the tunnel. And this is actually my personal hope for each and every client that I sit down with. And I have to tell you, I don't offer out my services to just anybody who walks in the door or wants a chat with me or whatever. I need to make sure that this is actually somebody that's going to do the work. I do vet them probably as much as they vetted me before they actually sent me that email or picked up the phone, because I need to know that they are serious so that I can guide them to a place where they won't need me anymore and they can live intuitively and take care of themselves forever and ever. And sadly, I'm not always the best judge of who that is, because we are really good as people as kind of saying things or convincing people of things that we don't necessarily believe yet or that we haven't reached yet. So not everybody gets to that level, but a lot of them do. And a lot of people actually, not a lot of people, I have had some clients, they're a small number, that they just don't do the work. They just don't do the work. And so if you don't do the work, I can't help you out. If you just stop right there at the behavior changes, which are hard, I can't go any further. I can't help you. You're not going to see the improvements and you're not going to see the change. So that's what I want to get into with you today, is this mindset aspect that is always the first part of me working with my clients. And this mindset is a big reason why culturally we have become so sick, right? I'm one of the sick. I'm one of the walking wounded, and mine was stress. I did not realize how stressed I was, but I was super duper stressed. And you can go back and listen to my story. I'm not going to go into it now, but I really just thought that I was busy and I thought that I was handling everything great, but my body was giving me signs and symptoms or signals that things weren't right. And I just really wasn't listening. And so it took me out. So here's some statistics for you. So 75 to 98% of the mental, physical, and behavioral illnesses actually come from one's own thought life. So these aren't statistics that I have worked up myself. This is actually research that's been done that has uncovered some of these really shocking numbers. Like this one, 80% of cancers are actually due to lifestyle, not genetics. And 98% of the diseases that are out there just in general are lifestyle diseases, like mine. Mine was a lifestyle disease. That's what happened to me. I was chronically stressed, and that triggered certain genes in my body. So yes, I had the genetic predisposition, and I like how Chris Kresser says it over at California Center for Functional Medicine. That's actually my functional doctor. He says that your genes are like bullets in your gun, and it is your lifestyle that pulls the trigger. My lifestyle definitely pulled the trigger. I had too much on my plate. Even though my plate looked really great and was a very successful plate, it was just too much for my body to handle. I didn't have a really good stress management system in place at the time. So we do have a choice, and we can undo the damage, and we can be justified in our hope and having hope. So I am a Christian, and I take a lot of stock in hope. And if you are that type of a person, then you're going to want to pick up a book by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. It's called Switch on Your Brain. And it's a fabulous book. I actually haven't read it in a couple years, but it's all about, she weaves in science and scripture. And she talks a lot about epigenetics, and she talks a lot about what we're talking about today, which is getting the right mindset so that you can actually do the healing that you hope can be done. So we can have hope because we know about things like epigenetics. Epigenetics are those lifestyle choices. How you behave, like how you eat, how you work, how you sleep, who you hang out with, and if you exercise and all of that good stuff, right? And how you rest. Those are all things that we can control. So we are not a victim. And we don't have to live in fear because of our genetics. And that's kind of how I felt when I was driving around my little mountain community. Was I felt a little bit of fear because I felt like, wow, I can't really control this virus. I can't see it. I don't know who has it. And sometimes they don't know if they have it. And I just kind of felt fearful about it because it's something that was not in my control. Now, taking care of my diet and making sure that I have proper rest and stress management, and I'm washing my hands and all of those, and I'm getting exercise and going out into the sunshine when we have it here in the mountains. And those are all things that I can control that will reduce my risk of getting this disease, or I should say fighting this virus if I come in contact with it. So basically, it's something good to remember is that 80-20 rule. It's 80% up to you. It's 80% up to you and 20% up to your genes. So don't pull the trigger. You have the power to reverse a lot of stress and damage that life has basically done to you, right? So this is where you can take the reins back. Let's talk a little bit about conventional medicine and how I feel, in my opinion, that they pretty much are treating the wrong end of the horse. You go into the doctor and you say, my elbow hurts, and you point to your elbow. And in conventional Western medicine, that's pretty much all they're going to look at, right? They're just going to look at your elbow and they'll say, what do you do? I don't know, I have a rash here on my elbow. And they'll say, okay, here's a cream. It looks like it's this type of a rash. Let's just, your immune system is on high alert right there, and it's made this rash. Let's shut your immune system off by putting a little steroid cream on it, and off you go, right? Instead of asking that question, well, why do you even have the rash in the first place? So that I'm looking at things from more of a holistic approach, body, mind, spirit, and soul. And that's why people in the functional medical world, we start with the mind, and we change behaviors, and we remove toxins, and that eventually affects the brain, and that is eventually going to heal your body. So our body can make our brain and our mind sick, and it goes in reverse order as well. Your mind can make your brain and your body sick, right? So we talk a lot about gut health, and we talk about the gut-brain axis, or that little connection and communication that our guts and our brains have together. We also talk about having imbalanced hormones on this show here, and we do talk a little bit about the brain as an organ itself, but I don't feel like we cover that enough. And the brain is an incredible organ, and it's in charge of making nearly every decision in our body. And it not only is getting feedback from the body itself with all of these little negative feedback loops, like how we do blood sugar and hormone balance and everything else, but it's also basing its decisions. And, I picture like a control panel, and like the brain is just like, making all these decisions and flipping switches and turning knobs and everything. It also uses your thoughts, right? So here's a good example of how your brain is going to use your thoughts to make physiological decisions and adjustments in your body. Have you ever been so worried that you can't eat? You're no longer hungry. Just the thought of food, you're like, I can't even do it. Or maybe you're just the opposite person. You're so worried or you're so upset that you can't stop eating. You just are eating and eating and eating. What about, have you ever, eaten just simply because you're bored? Or maybe because you didn't want to miss out on something, right? Like, you shouldn't have that cupcake because it's not gluten-free and yada yada. It's just this chemical cupcake and, whatever. But everybody else is having one. I want to do it too. That kind of thing. Now you're feeling sad about it, and you go ahead and you're like, well, I am hungry. I'm just going to do it. And your mouth starts watering and you're craving it even more now. Why do we even say things like, ooh, that sounds good? Or why is comfort food so comforting? What is comforting? How about the term emotional eating? These are all mental decisions. These are all decisions that come from your heart. It comes from your feelings. And your brain is going to make chemical adjustments in your body based on your feelings. One of my jobs as a nutritional therapy practitioner is to help my clients get in connection or get some sort of awareness of their feelings. So there's really two different kinds of eaters. There's homeostatic eaters or hedonic eaters. Now, a homeostatic eater is going to be somebody that just eats for the sake of nourishment, and that's it. And then your hedonic eater is going to eat simply for pleasure. So what category do you fall under? A little bit of both? I actually rarely run into that person. I feel like most of the people that I even know on this planet are more hedonic eaters. What sounds good for dinner? I was really craving this, or I just really kind of wanted that, or don't take away my French fries. I just love French fries. And so few people, unless you're like a nutritionist like myself, are really honestly thinking about the nourishing quality of foods. Maybe some are, or you learn to be to where you're like, I want those leafy greens because, right? So my role is to teach you how to be more of a homeostatic eater. Homeostatic is like homeostasis. That means eating for balance, eating for optimal functionality, and just nourishing your body for the sake of, I want my body to function well, not just that cookie looks good kind of a thing, right? Okay. So how do you transition to be more of a homeostatic eater? I'm not saying that homeostatic eaters are never pleased by their food or experience any sort of pleasure. I'm definitely more of a homeostatic eater than I am a hedonic eater, but I'm not going to lie. There are times that I'm just simply kind of craving a certain thing. And that's when I'll go into the kitchen and maybe I'll make myself a grain-free or like an AIP or like a zucchini crust for a pizza because I just really wanted something, like that. But the initial, ooh, pizza sounds good, it might start there. However, I quickly slide over to that homeostatic role of saying, okay, So I want pizza. How can I make it nourishing for my body? What have I eaten today? What have I done today? What do I still have to do? What is my body giving me any signals? Do I kind of need some more carbs right now? Or have I already had too many carbs today to where I feel like my blood sugar might have dipped a little bit, and so I'm really not hungry. I'm just kind of cravey. Right? This internal conversation, it happens in my head because I have learned how to be a homeostatic eater. I value the influence of food. This is a learned behavior. This is what you're doing listening to this podcast, right? You want to learn how to nourish your body. Otherwise, you wouldn't be hanging out with me every Friday or whatever day you're listening. And that comes with education. It comes with the reading of the books I suggest, or listening to podcasts or blogs, or trying new recipes, or hanging out with people that definitely have a healthier lifestyle and make the better food choices. You're educating yourself. Becoming a homeostatic eater also means applying consistency. It's something that you do on a regular basis. I wake up and I'm not obsessed about it. It's just that I'm intentional about my eating. I've switched over to green tea in the morning. I really, really love that. I've been messing around with a lot of things since giving up coffee because caffeine just sadly wasn't doing me right, especially from the coffee. I love coffee. I've loved coffee since I was a little girl. I would eat coffee candies. I'd have a cup of coffee with my dad even when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Always have loved that coffee flavor, and I miss it, but it just wasn't working for me. So, but there's a consistency. Every once in a while, like maybe every 3 or 4 months, I might try a little bit of coffee and it gives me terrible stomach aches. And I'm like, oh, I guess I can't do that, right? But I'm very, very consistent about my eating. And there's a reward that comes with that. The no more stomach aches, in that area. And that reward system is a new kind of fuel because we like to be rewarded. We like to be happy. We like to feel good. We like to experience pleasing situations and whatever that is, whether it's in food or friend or sights that were, wow, look at that mountain range or whatever it is teaching our bodies that we can find pleasure in things that are also nourishing. So for me, that is like the apex of homeostatic eating, is that, wow, I want nourishing food. I know where to find nourishing food, and I am satisfied the most by nourishing food. I don't think I've ever eaten anything that was good for me and felt guilt or shame about it. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And, don't get me wrong, you can overdo it with healthy foods. Like sweet potato is a good food for you, but that doesn't mean that you get to eat 9 sweet potatoes in one day, right? Or leafy greens are great for you. If you're not used to eating 6, 8, 9, 10 cups of leafy greens, you do that all in one day when maybe you are a 1 cup a day person. Oh my gosh, all that fiber and everything, your body's not going to be ready for it. And you're probably going to have terrible stomach aches, from that. So you can take a good thing too far, but that's not really what I'm talking about. And I think you know that. But if you want lasting change and you don't want to diet anymore, if you don't want to yo-yo diet anymore to where you gain weight and you lose weight, or you sleep and then you stop sleeping, or you don't have hot flashes anymore and now your hot flashes are back, or night sweats, or whatever it is, we need to retrain our minds, because our minds are going to influence our brain, and that in turn regulates our bodies differently, and it gives you those rewards that you're looking for. And that comes with being consistent. Not the temporary reward of doing something maybe for 30, 60, or 90 days, but to get the long-lasting results and saying, wow, I've actually found my proper body weight. I like this body weight that I'm at, and this is how I'm going to stay here. And so I don't have to worry about dieting ever again. I don't have to worry about depriving myself of anything. I'm just going to be a homeostatic eater, and I'm going to find my pleasure from eating nourishing foods. So I hope that makes sense. But based off of past experiences and nutrient availabilities or deficiencies, our brain has actually learned a certain way or method of how to keep you where you are, not necessarily where you want to be. Now, Sarah Gottfried actually talks about that in her books, and she calls it like a weight set point. Like, let's just say that your body is used to having you 25 pounds overweight. And no matter what you do over the long haul, you might be able to lose weight for a little bit. 10, 15, 20 pounds comes off, and then you loosen up those reins again, and then it goes right back to where it was before. And oftentimes, us women know, it usually comes with extra weight on top of it. So that 40 pounds now looks like 45 pounds. That is what Dr. Gottfried refers to as like your weight set point. So your brain has learned this is where you live. You live like this. Store this much fat. When things get scarce, like when a diet happens, maybe there'll be a little bit of a weight change, but then your brain is going to do everything it can by pulling those levers and twisting the knobs and adjusting your hormones, including cravings and everything else, to do everything in its power to get you back to where it's used to being. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is that how to bust that weight loss plateau, or maybe an inflammation plateau, or maybe a chronic stress plateau. Like, how do you do it? How do you get into this homeostatic way of living and find pleasure and then see the results in a lasting way? Well, you need to involve your mind, and you need to actually even consider your brain instead of just considering the protocols or the food lists or what the supplements or the exercise routines or whatever it is. We need to back the truck way up, and we need to back it up, and we need to go take a look at that mindset and your why. And then we need to learn a little bit about how your brain functions. So let's get a little bit of brain education, because the head of your central nervous system, you probably haven't talked about it since you were in school. And so that's been a while if you're my age. I'm 48, although I'm always in school. So your brain actually, the brain, the organ itself, actually only represents about 2 to 3% of your total body weight. Yet, this is amazing, it consumes 25% of your total body glucose and 20% of your body's oxygen and about 20% of your cardiac output. So to put it simply, your brain uses up a quarter of your fuel and about a fifth of the oxygen that you take in. That's amazing to me. Now, on days where I'm on my computer more and I'm being creative, I'm not just doing, my online coaching and consulting with people, but if I'm creating a podcast, if I'm, creating content or anything else like that, I got to tell you, I am hungrier. I am hungrier, and I do feel kind of more tired, and I try and mix it up, sitting, standing, moving around, taking breaks and all that. But I can attest, and I'm sure that you have been mentally taxed and have felt it in your hunger level for sure. So our brain, because of how much fuel it uses, a quarter of your fuel, it plays a massive role. As a matter of fact, it plays the largest or biggest role in your metabolism. So if you are looking to lose weight or to maintain the weight that you have, you best consider your brain and your brain health. So in the past, I've talked about your thyroid, and a lot of you probably already know that metabolism is one of the things that your thyroid controls. So if you have, say, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, somebody that has a low functioning, they call it, hypothyroidism. It's not doing its job. That's why weight gain is a part of it, because their metabolism is off. Well, what tells the thyroid what to do? Your pituitary. What tells the pituitary what to do? Your hypothalamus. Where is your hypothalamus? Your hypothalamus is in your brain. So your brain is ultimately in charge of your metabolism. What runs the brain? Well, two things really. The body runs the brain because of that feedback loop. It has these sensors running around that's saying, hey, her blood sugar's low. She needs a little cortisol, to carry her through. Or, hey, there's too much blood sugar going on. We need some insulin down here, or whatever. So your brain is listening to your body, but your brain is also getting an earful from your mind and those thoughts that you're thinking and those feels that you're feeling. So we do have to consider the mind, the brain, the gut, and your body. So in the realm of influencers, right, what is influencing the mind? What is influencing the brain and the gut and the body the most? As a nutritionist, it's not going to be a big surprise that, I thoroughly agree with food being one of the biggest or most massive influencers. So food can either help you or hurt you. And that includes the gut and the brain and the mind and everything else. So here's a little story about like how food can really, influence just the thought of food. So we live about an hour away or 45 minutes away from this cute little town called Murphy's. It's a historic little gold mining town, and now there's all kinds of different cute restaurants, and it's in the foothills, and there's wine tasting and a lot of fun stuff there. And there is a bakery there called Lila and Sage, and they were on like Cupcake Wars, and they're a cute tiny little place, and they have like gluten-free products there. And so we would go maybe once a month, maybe not even that often. My husband and I would take a date there, and I would always look forward to getting one of their little cupcakes because I just don't have an opportunity to do that very often, especially one that's really, really yummy. Well, for the last 6 months or so, whenever we go in there, they're out. They don't have it. And it totally affects my attitude. I'm like, really? Kind of a thing. And it's funny how just the thought of that food made me happy. And the thought of not having that, the disappointment, really made me like, oh man, really made me draggy because I was, looking forward to it. Now, food is such a massive influencer, not just with our thoughts and feels like I shared, but it also can affect your gene expression, your hormone levels, your immune activity, and that also can affect your stress levels in your gut and your brain, which in turn will influence your entire body. Now, another example would be how crazy your food can get all the way into your thoughts and your feels is let's go back to Hashimoto's people. Typically people that have hypothyroidism like Hashis, gluten and dairy, the proteins that are found in gluten and dairy, specifically the casein, their bodies are very sensitive to them and they don't process them well, and it creates leaky gut, which creates all sorts of havoc and inflammation in the body. And a good example of that is I know several people that have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and when they have gluten and dairy, they'll actually get eczema, and they'll get a rash, one of them right on her forearm. And she's like, oh, I've been eating dairy, or, oh, and, I watched her eat a grilled cheese one time. I'm like, what are you doing? That's what I'm thinking in my mind. But she's a grown woman. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. And I don't work for her. We're friends. And this is the bummer, though, is that ugly patch of eczema is a source of embarrassment for her and frustration for her. And, so it does affect her mind and her mood and everything else, and just how she feels about herself and this stupid Hashis and all of these things that come out of it. And all of that came because of a food that she ate. So let's move on to hormones, right? So like the thyroid hormones, that's one thing, but yeah, hormones are a huge influence. I always say that hormones are like what add color and variety and like flavor and feels to our life. And I mentioned Dr. Sarah Gottfried earlier, and she has a little word on estrogen. And according to some of the research that she has done, she definitely sells, and I believe it in the research that I've done, that estrogen is one of the fundamental regulators in what she calls the brain body. I just love that term, brain body. Like it's got its own thing going on. It's its own little body up there. And here's a question I have for you. How old are you? Because when a woman is over 40, her estrogen production naturally begins to decrease, right? Hello, perimenopause. And especially after 40, this puts us at a higher risk for things like insomnia, anxiety, and depression, and stroke, and Alzheimer's. And I literally don't have a single client that comes to me, says I'm sleeping like a rock and I don't have any kind of anxiety or depression. Sleeping is always one of the top issues. I actually have very few women that come to me for weight loss. They all would like weight loss, but by the time they get to me, they realize that that can't be the number one priority, that they have some other things to tackle. And they're smart women, and they realize that the weight that they're carrying is just a symptom of other things gone wrong. And they're absolutely right. But back to anxiety and depression. So right now in the United States, depression is actually the leading cause of disability. Here with the COVID-19, we've got so many people, just, oh my gosh, just millions of people on not disability, but on unemployment. And so I imagine with the financial strain and whatever, that we're going to see even more depression by the end of this. So Prozac and Zoloft are literally two of the most prescribed drugs. And it's crazy to me, because we need to get a handle on our stress, and that starts with our minds and our brains and our gut health and how our bodies are functioning. These drugs, these Prozac and Zoloft, they're not going to do the trick. That's that wrong end of the horse that I'm talking about. And they are in and of itself, influencers. So SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So for every 10 people that are on those, it literally only works on one person. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. That's crazy. So I'm going to get back to food before I go too far on the prescription Band-Aids. But I mentioned earlier that food can help you or hurt you or stress your body. And we've talked about how food can be, nourishing, or it can be toxic, like if you have thyroid issues and you are eating gluten and dairy, that's very toxic, and it causes the immune system to be all inflamed, right? And this is one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate of not only getting people to add nourishing foods to their diet, but to also walk them through avoiding what, like Dr. Mark Hyman says all the time, and I always use it, is frankenfoods. These are the foods that are the GMO grown, the seeds with the pesticides, the fungicides, the herbicides, the colors and additives and chemicals and all of the stuff that we have become accustomed, our taste buds, our thoughts we're comforted by these frankenfoods, and getting people to learn a new way, to educate them and say, this is what these foods are doing to your body, and to be able to identify them and what they actually do for you. That's a big way to reduce your overall stress on your body, which has a direct stress on how your brain functions and the decisions that it makes to run the physiological part of your body. And it has that carryover into your mental health as well. We are living in such a toxic time on this planet. There are so many toxins in modern life. I mean, the air, the food, the clothes, the furniture, the products that we use, the beauty products, the medications, like I mentioned. And the scariest part of this is that these toxins are actually crossing over into that coveted blood-brain barrier. That's like a little filter that covers our brains to protect it from the influence of these toxins. But this is the problem. We're finding these toxins in our brains. We are finding babies when they're brand new and haven't had any foods yet. We're finding evidence of like glyphosate, which is Roundup, already in their cells because of the mother passing that on to another generation. Absolutely horrific. So a lot of you already know that excess fat on our body is extremely toxic. It holds not only like estrogen, in it and leaks it out. So you can be somebody that is perimenopausal or even menopausal and have excess estrogen if you have too much excess, which excess means too much, fat. Now, fat holds, it's its job. It holds toxins. Now, I don't know if you know this, but your brain is 60% Yeah. So if you are, you're out in the world, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here recording this on laminate flooring, and there's certain things that we can't get rid of. I'm sure there are other ways for me to go, okay, babe, let's get some real hardwood floor in here, but there's a good chance I'd want it stained. Toxic. I mean, it's just all these things. So we need to be reasonable here. And so the products we use and different things, I try to do the best, and I can't be completely, toxin free here, but I can boost up my body's ability to detox. And that's a big part of the program with my clients. And I know they're thinking detoxing hormones, and they're detoxing, liver, making sure the liver is working properly. But I'm also thinking about their brain health. We've all heard of leaky gut. I talked about it earlier about like how, gluten and other proteins can enter the bloodstream in the small intestines at an inappropriate time and just trigger an immune response in your body. We actually also have a leaky brain situation. And that's kind of what I'm talking about like right now, is these toxins are finding their way into our brains. And so this is all about considering your brain health. So part of brain health is being able to detox and get rid of the toxins that are building up in your bodies. And it's our bodies that are going to show the first sign of distress. I mentioned that earlier. I wasn't listening to some of the signals that my body was giving to my brain and then my mind. One of the ways that our bodies detox is, especially since we're talking about your brain health today, is while you are sleeping. You need to be in a deep sleep. We have several stages of sleep, and I do have sleep units where I do education on that. And there's only specific stages of sleep when we are deep, deep sleep, when your body's kind of paralyzed, your arms and legs aren't moving around, even though your brain is going 100 miles an hour and you're dreaming. Your brain will actually shrink. Totally crazy. It shrinks. Why does it shrink? Because it is getting rid of excess water and toxins and everything in there, and it's going to get pumped back up again with new nutrients. That is detoxification in the coolest way ever. When I was growing up, and for the longest time when I thought detox, I mostly just kind of thought of like my kidneys. And your kidneys are a major player in the detox. That shrinkage from your brain, that you're going to pee that out, in the morning, and how your digestive system has rested. You're going to pee, those excess hormones out and everything. And we need those kidneys to be working well. But let's go back a little bit and talk about kind of the amount of stress that needs to be detoxed from the body. Because when I say stress, I'm also talking about cortisol. And I'm also talking about like cytokines. Cytokines are little hormones that when you have a lot of inflammation in your body, you're going to have a lot of cytokines in your body. And these need to be flushed out. And when we are taking a lot of prescription medications, those need to be flushed out as well. And not only the chemicals and the components and the metabolites from the prescription medications or over-the-counter medications, but also what they ask our body to do also needs to be flushed out. So 1 in 3 Americans are on an anxiety or depression medication. 1 in 4 women over 40 take antidepressants. And 80% of the women out there are unhappy with their body. I'm speaking about Americans. And 22 to 55% of women suffer from food addictions. And lastly, 2/3 of Americans report significant stress regarding their future. So this stress, we have to back that truck up again, is both physiological stress with toxins and inflammation, whether it's poor food or air quality or water, whatever it is, but it's also our toxic thoughts that we have. So there is a priority in our healing. And we can't just go through life addressing just the symptoms, just band-aiding symptoms and a pill for every ill or a protocol for just this or just that to get the job done. We really need to start with that mindset. And I always remind people that when I'm talking about thoughts, I'm talking, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And sadly, most of them are negative. So just like I'm helping my clients clear toxins from their body, we need to clear these toxic thoughts. And I've shared with you about how my morning goes. It's somewhat of a morning ritual. I wake up in the morning like everybody else, and I head to the bathroom and I go pee and I brush my teeth, I wash my face. That's easy peasy. But I start right away with getting a nice huge jar of water, putting some lemon in it, and I start the detoxification of my physical body right there with the water. And it's amazing how energizing that is and how it literally helps you clear kind of that morning brain fog. People will say, "Oh, I haven't had my coffee yet." Well, you need to have your water. You need to get that water going. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take care of my mental health. So for me, that is journaling. And I write it out. I have a pen and a paper. I write it out. It helps me take my thoughts all the way out and finish them instead of just being a random string of 60 or 70,000 thoughts. I'm actually working my thoughts out on paper. I do that for however long, and then I it's probably going to be 5 or 10 minutes, depending on the day, depending on what I wake up with, in my heart. What am I worried about? What am I concerned about? What am I grateful about? That kind of stuff. And then I move into opening up my Bible. If you choose your book of choice or your mentor, of choice, for me, it's my Bible. It reminds me of who I am and why I am here, and more gratitude and more praise, and just kind of getting my mind off of myself and putting it on something bigger and greater than I am. And it actually makes me feel more focused and more secure and ready for the day. But that's kind of like laying down bricks, but not putting any cement over it. I need to cement that. So my next phase is going to be my meditation time. Some days, I'm not going to lie, it's only 5 minutes, and some days it's 15 minutes. Some days it's very cursory. I put on maybe a guided something because I just feel distracted. My goal is always to meditate on what I just journaled about and what I just read about, so that I can kind of have that cemented feeling. But sometimes, I just have other things going on in my head and my heart, and I want to do a guided session, and it might be on healing, it might be on breathing, it might be on joyfulness, or just visualizing, I don't know, peace, or whatever. But I always take that time, 5 to 15 minutes, and that's super duper important. I mean, the getting up and having my water, and then handling my heart and my head, and then working on choosing a mindset. The last part of my meditation is always somewhat of like a visual experience, like a manifestation experience, to where I just kind of see what I want for my day or what I want for my life, and I visualize myself actually doing those things, right? So then I move on to, I make sure that I'm eating in that homeostatic way, that I'm not choosing toxic foods or things or people or whatever in my life, that I just focus on living in a nourishing pattern for my whole day. And I stick with that behavior. It is a chosen behavior, and I stay consistent. And that's what I help my clients do, because in the very beginning, it is a little bit dogmatic. It is, they're filling out food and mood journals. They're telling me when they wake up, when they went to bed, how their bodies felt. We're going over what they ate and how much they ate and when they ate, and we talk about their mood throughout the day, anxiety, frustration, whatever. We're talking about bowel movements and hydration. It's really complete. But in the very beginning, and I say the beginning, but that's 30 to 90 days. It takes 30 to 90 days it's like, oh, should I still do my food journal? I'm kind of in this rhythm. Well, I'm teaching them how to, number one, how to live that homeostatic kind of nourishing lifestyle as far as food choices and behaviors. One, so they need to learn the rhythm of that. Once they have the rhythm, then I go in to teach them how to have variety within that, so they don't have to be so dogmatic. But the journaling continues. It really does, because it takes a while to move away from that, because the accountability and the consistency isn't there if we get online or if they're live in person, and I say, well, tell me a little bit about your eating. Do you have your food logs? And they go, no, I've been doing a really good job. Okay, so what is that? Well, I've been eating like I usually eat. I can't help them as often. I can't see some of the patterns and teach them some of the patterns and go, gosh, do you notice that this is when you take these supplements? And then do you notice that after you take these supplements, that you have a stomach ache? But your food has changed, but your supplements haven't. Let's take a look at some of those supplements and let's see, so there's different things that I'm trying to teach them, that education. And I love it when they throw it right back at me and they tell me what they've been learning. So then they start getting the rewards, right? And they can stay top of mind with really what their goals are and working that out and how to live that out on an everyday basis. So these are your actionable things that I want you to walk away with today. Number one, I really want you to work on your mindset. And that does start with the morning. Start it in the beginning of your day and not the end. It's really hard to change your day. You can't go backwards and have a better attitude. You need to decide that attitude in the very beginning. And make a conscious choice, number two, to remove any toxic influences in your life. Is that too much digital influence? Is it too much of a certain person or people group that you kind of don't like how you feel after you've spent time with them or who you become when you're with them? That also includes your food, right? That also includes maybe staying up too late or not getting your exercise. So remove the toxic influences in your life and make sure you, number three, change your behavior. Choose the behaviors that are nourishing for your body, that are moving you to where you would hope to go, because you do have a hope for your health. I'm not saying you're guaranteed to get it, but there's nothing wrong with having hope and taking action, because I tell you what, you will be better. You will get better. And better is better. It just really is. And then stay consistent. So work on your mindset. Remove your toxic influences, change your behavior to things that are nourishing and along with what your why is, and then stay consistent. So when you're trying to figure out like, well, okay, I've got my 4 actionable things, I want you to remember my Restore program, RESTORE, rest. That is your stress management. That comes first. Eat, sleep, tribe, that's your people, open up, repair, and exercise. If you can remember Restore, and if you can apply those actionable steps that I've given you, then your mindset will change. You will create the mindset that will better direct your brain, that will be able to better direct your body and how it influences. When you're eating and you're sleeping and your exercise are all in sync here, then your body is going to be giving different signals to your brain. So that's why it won't be giving you the craving signals anymore, or the I want to eat 19 cupcakes signals anymore. It won't have that. It won't be giving your brain that feedback anymore, which is really, really great. So I hope that this was helpful for you today. I hope that you learned about your brain. I hope that you learned about the power of your mindset, your mental attitude, and your awareness that has over your overall health. And I hope this encourages you to go out and change those behaviors. If you are struggling to do it on your own and you're not going to read a bunch of books and you're not going to do those things, then I urge you to get help, because that's what I do. Is I'm a guide. I live it. I have been living it. I have walked through that valley with a lot of people, and there's so many success stories that I just have file after file after file, and it gives me such great pleasure and joy to know that I'm able to influence people in that way, whether it's on the podcast or whether it's articles that I write or whether it's giving me a call. So right now, because of all this COVID-19 and people are experiencing such financial hardship, I feel like this is a time to be generous. And so I am offering a 30-minute consultation My consultations range between 150 and 199 for an hour. So basically what I've done, and then I have packages, of course, when people are working with me for 6 weeks or, whatever length of time, a year. What I've done is I have come up with something that I feel is super affordable. It's like 70% off. So I'm hoping you can afford that. That is sitting down with me for 30 minutes online, and we can create a plan for you. I can help get you going on that path. It's only $30. You need to go to my website at thepathforhealth.com to sign up for it. Truthfully, I don't know how long it's going to be that pricing. So this is just a generous offer on my side because I feel that the best way for us to help each other through this is to use our gifts, our talents, and our experiences to rally around each other and fill each other's gaps and needs. And this is something that I can do and that I can help you with in this very, very stressful time. So I'm going to treat you just like I'm going to treat you for 12 months or anything else. I'm going to have you fill out a nutritional assessment questionnaire before we meet. I'm going to have you fill out those food and mood journals before we meet so that I can have as much information as possible so that we can take that 30 minutes and get a whole lot of work done. So I don't want to spend 29 minutes trying to get in your story and then and what you're dealing with only to give you 1 minute's worth of advice. So I still want to get to know you, but I want to keep that, I want to have as much as I possibly can before we meet so that I can go over your case, really review it well, and come prepared. So go to thepathforhealth.com. It's only $30. I have it set up. You can pay right online. It's a secured payment program. I don't see your credit cards, or I don't even know your address or whatever. I just get a message from them saying they paid, kind of a thing. So thepathforhealth.com, and share this information. We gotta let other people know about this information as well. So thank you so much for listening to The Path for Health, and I hope this blesses you, and I hope you stay safe, and I can't wait to hear your stories. So comment on here. Let me know if you have any questions. I love to hear them. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know where you're struggling, and I want to be able to provide some answers and some strategies for you. All right. Have a great day. Thank you again. This is Brandy Lloyd signing off for The Path for Health. Bye. Hi, this is Brandy Lloyd. I just wanted to say thank you for hanging out with me today and listening to my latest podcast. I hope that you find it valuable and that you walk away with some real applicable tools and definitely some understanding. Before you go, though, I want to tell you about some valuable resources that I have. Head over to thepathforhealth.com, and one that you'll see is my 6 steps to thyroid health. It's a free download, and if you are suspecting or know anybody or yourself that is dealing with thyroid issues, this is a must. Also, I want to make sure that you subscribe to my podcast. I do occasional bonus episodes that you don't know about unless you are subscribing. So make sure that you hit subscribe on there. And I love your comments and your feedback and your questions. So the more of those that I get, the better I can direct the teaching, because this is all about you. Another resource that is free that you can find on my website would be my newsletter. It's right on the front page. This is where I will do short videos, or if I'm going to be local or doing any events or giving out recipes, this is where you can find that information. And it comes out about once a week. I don't send out a whole bunch of newsletters to fill up your inbox. I just want to make sure that you don't miss out on something if I forget to mention it, like say on a podcast. And then lastly, I want to remind you that I do have a special offer right now. My consultations typically are 1 hour, and they run anywhere from $150 to $199 per session. And because of this pandemic and everything that's going on right now, I've created a special offer. I just feel really strongly about being generous. Everybody should be generous with their gifts, their talents, their experience, and their education for the greater good. And this is a way for me to give back. So I can give back in 30-minute increments in my schedule, and for only $30. So because my calendar can only house so many appointments, you'll need to go to thepathforhealth.com, and I'm going to base it off first come, first serve. I don't know how long I'm going to be offering this. I'm hoping that we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel soon, and that everybody will be back to work and able to focus and live their lives in a more solid and, dare I say, predictable, kind of way. But until then, I'm going to have this offer open. So we'll do as much as we can before your 30-minute appointment, a nutritional assessment, maybe some food logging, so I can get as much information as I can from you. And then from there, I will review your case, and then we'll set up an appointment, 30 minutes, to basically personalize, just tailor a plan for you so that you can reach those health goals that you have. Again, thank you so much for listening and for all your support. And I love your questions coming in, or your encouragement, or, whatever it is. And so thank you so much, and stay safe and be well. And I will see you on the path for health. Thank you.